Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well. So we recently released Ventaris and now the Seika, which all have sort of areas on the spine of the knife that have a little textured section, which is called jimping. You see it a lot on like cutthroat razors and scissors and things like that. And all it is a little piece of texture on the back of the knife that just enables you to have a little bit of grip for your thumb. There are two types of jimping. The finer type, which you'll see, which is what I'm going to demo now, and then the sort of bigger type, which is done either with a drill press on like a stitch drill and then flash back, or with something like a Dremel, something similar like that. They tend to look more aggressive like this, but yeah, it's just sort of each their own. What I'm going to show you now though is the little one, the really fine one, which is done with a special type of file. It's all done by hand. It just sort of show off what actually goes in to something so simple and something that is required on some models, and then obviously just showing you how it is done by hand. To do this job, checkering file, special file for the jimps, a file guide, which is basically just two pieces of hardened steel with a bolt through and a rubber washer between. A 7mm Allen key for the file guide, a set of vernier calipers, a little engineer square, and a tungsten scribe. I've also here got a technical drawing of the actual knife itself to remind me of the dimensions. I can commit a lot of it to memory, but it's often worth checking. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my knife, set my calipers to 8mm, because that is the distance I need to scribe onto here. So just make a little mark at the bottom. Take my square, line the square up to the back of the mark, like that. Take my scribe and lightly scribe a little line. You can just see a lovely straight line there. Next thing I'm going to do now is I need to clamp the file guide, which is this thing, over the front of the knife and line that up onto there and clamp it in place at 90 degrees. It's quite fiddly and I need both hands to do it, so I'm just going to cut the footage now and I'll come back in a second. Okay, so I've clamped my knife inside the knife clamp, and that is in turn clamped into this machinist vise. It's going nowhere. So I'm going to take my checkering file. Now a checkering file isn't like a normal file, so basically what it's got is a series of cutting teeth that run in straight rows with like a little V gap between each one. It is important to note, however, that checking files tend to be slightly different on each side, so if you want like a consistent finish, it's best to use the same side and keep it facing the same way at all times. If I start here and then flip it over, I could interrupt the pattern or change the like add an extra one basically, and that becomes a problem if you want to try and keep things uniform. So I've got a little arrow on the file here, and that's going to be butted up against here. So all I'm going to do is start my cut, and you sort of have to brace yourself like against the vise with this flat side, so there's no teeth here. So I keep my thing here, and it's going to be quite noisy. It can be quite loud because obviously it is a tool steel and the file doesn't really like it. This operation actually gets through files quite quickly. So just keeping pressure against the back of the file guide here. And you can just see already it's just starting to cut. Now the object of this is to cut all the way to the bottom till the file bottoms out, and that sets my depth. Okay, these blanks, by the way, I forgot to mention, have already been cleaned up on the spine. So these have already been, they've been abraded up to 600 grit, and then they've been pre-polished, and that's all done before heat treat. Just because if you did it after heat treat, this would be so hard, to be the same hardness as the file, so it just wouldn't cut at all. that's basically the process. And what I'll do now, I'll finish one and then we'll cut and see what it looks like. Okay, so I've cut all the way to the bottom. And you should be able to see now, if it focuses, the serration in the back. Nice and deep, nice and uniform. And then the trick is to get them all the same and do all of those